Hello and welcome to Nithrania YouTube channel. You're watching another episode of the Game in a Nutshell series designed for explaining the board game rules. My name is Branislav Berec and today we're going to learn how to play Hidden Leaders, a card deduction tableau building game for 2 to 6 players, which plays in about half an hour from game designers from Vienna and Berlin. And before we start, let me say that everything you're about to see in this video is a prototype version of the game, which is coming to Kickstarter in March. So let's get started. To set the game up, place this game board with a power track in the middle of the table. Place these 2 power markers in the starting position on this power track. Locate this deceased Emperor card and place it in the graveyard. Shuffle these hero cards and place the deck face down to the harbor. And for a first introductory game, you may want to remove all these advanced cards indicated by this plus symbol in the left side of the card. If not, you don't have to take them out and you can simply use all the cards in the game. Then draw the top 3 cards from the harbor deck and place them face up in these 3 Tavern slots. Leave some space over here in the wilderness, which is basically a discard pile. Then shuffle these leader cards and give each player 1 card at random and 5 cards from the hero's deck. Players keep these cards in their hands, hidden from other players. For the sake of explanation, I will show these cards face up. Now each player must choose one of those 5 hero cards and place it face down next to your leader card, and preferably it's a hero card with one of the symbols shown on your leader card. Then choose 3 cards to keep in your hand and discard one of the cards face down to the discard pile called Wilderness. In Hidden Leaders, each player takes a role of 1 leader on the island of Oshra after the death of the Emperor. Each leader is allied with 2 factions on the island, and while their identity is secret, those 4 factions are Hill Tribes, represented by the green color, Imperial Army with the red color, Water People represented by blue color, and Undead represented by black. Again, each leader is allied with 2 of those factions. Over the course of the game, players will play cards from their hand in front of them into a play area and perform various effects on those cards. In general, they want to influence the power of the Hill Tribes and the Imperial Army, so these power markers will move up and down or left or right on this power track, and their position at the end of the game determines the faction that wins the game. The end of the game is triggered when any player has a certain number of face-up cards in their play area. That number depends on the number of players in the game, from 8 cards in a 2-player game down to 5 cards in a 6-player game. If you play the introductory game without the advanced cards, the endgame trigger condition is reduced by 1 card. When the winning faction is determined, each player reveals their hidden leader card, and the player loyal to the winning faction wins the game. Since every leader is loyal to 2 factions, it's very likely that more players will be loyal to the winning faction. In that case, reveal those hidden heroes as well, and then from those players loyal to the winning faction, the player with the most heroes from that winning faction wins the game. The game starts with the randomly chosen first player, and then players take turns, starting with the first player and then continuing in a clockwise direction until the game ends. On your turn, you have 2 options. You can either play the card from your hand into your play area, or you can discard up to 3 cards from your hand to the discard pile, or into the wilderness. When you play the card, place it face up in your play area and carry out the effect of the card. For the convenience, you can group the cards of the same faction. Based on the effect of the card, you will usually move these power markers to the left or right. However, the movement of these markers is limited by the size of the track. So, if the power marker is on the rightmost space and it is supposed to move right, it stays where it is. If the effect of the card tells you to kill a card, those cards go into this graveyard and only the top card is considered to be visible. If the card effect tells you to put 1 hand card into your party with this symbol, it's the same symbol as over here. It means that you have to take 1 card from your hand and place it face down next to your leader. All the face-up heroes and the face-down heroes in front of you are considered to be your party. However, only you know which face-down heroes are in this area. If you decide to discard the cards from your hand, you don't play any cards into your play area, you don't play any card effects, simply decide which cards you want to discard and place them into the discard pile into the wilderness. Then in the second step of your turn, you have to refill your hand up to 4 cards. You can draw the cards from the Tavern or from the top of the deck. When you take the card from the Tavern, don't refill the empty space yet. You may choose any combination of the face-up cards from the Tavern and face-down cards from the top of the deck, until you draw up to 4 cards in your hand. Then, as the third step of your turn, choose one of those cards in your hand and again discard that card to the wilderness. And only then, which is the fourth step of your turn, refill the empty spaces in the Tavern from the top of the deck. With that, your turn is over and it's the next player's turn. The number of your hidden heroes and also your face-up heroes should always be visible to all players, and the hidden heroes should never be shuffled. It should be very clear in which order those heroes have been played. Certain game effects may force you to reveal some of those cards. In that case, the ability of that card is not triggered unless specified by that game effect. You may always look at your hidden heroes, but again, don't change their order. The end of the game is triggered when any player has a certain number of face-up heroes in their play area at the end of their turn. That number is based on the number of players in the game. For example, in a 5-player game, one player has to have 6 face-up hero cards. Those face-down hero cards don't count. However, if some of them get revealed, they obviously count towards that number. Again, if you play the basic game without the advanced cards with the plus symbol, the endgame trigger is reduced by 1 card. It may happen that a game effect will force another player to flip one of their face-down card face up, and with that player may reach the specified number of face-up heroes to trigger the end of the game. When the game is over, you have to determine the winning faction. You can find these winning conditions on the player aid card as well. And let me start from the bottom. If the Hill Tribes marker is at least 2 spaces ahead of the Imperial army, the winning faction is the Hill Tribes faction. It must be at least 2 spaces ahead, so even in this case, Hill Tribes would be the winning faction. It works in the exact same way for the Imperial army. If the red marker is at least 2 spaces ahead of the green marker, Imperial army is the winning faction. If these markers would be on adjacent spaces or even on the same space, it's the blue faction, the water people faction, that wins the game. Water people are trying to keep the balance between those 2 factions. However, if both of the markers are in this black area, regardless of their position, it's the victory of the undead faction. If, however, at least one of those markers will not be in the black area, evaluate the winning condition based on the position of those markers. Now let's say we have this situation, so the blue faction wins the game. All players now reveal their hidden leaders, and if any leader is loyal to the winning faction, that player wins the game. However, since all leaders are loyal to 2 factions, it's very likely that there is another player, another leader, loyal to the winning faction. In that case, reveal the hidden heroes as well. And now, of those tied players, the player with the most heroes of the winning faction wins the game. If players would still be tied, count the total number of your heroes in your party. In this case, it would be 8. And the player with the lower number of total heroes wins the game. So that's how you play hidden leaders. If you have any questions or comments, I'll do my best to answer your questions. If you like the series, please subscribe. You can even support the channel on the Patreon page. My name is Branislav Berec. You've been watching Game in a Nutshell and hope to see you next time.